Here we are at the 22nd Annual La Jolla Energy Conference, and we're delighted to welcome Vice Minister Orlando Cabrales to La Jolla this year. Dr. Cabrales, you just assumed the position of Vice Minister of Energy, the Ministry of Mines and Energy in Colombia. You've come from the National Hydrocarbons Agency. Delighted to have you here. Thanks for coming to La Jolla. I know it's not easy to get to La Jolla from Bogota, so we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate your insights on the panel this morning. I want to talk a little bit more about the boom in Colombia. I want to talk a little bit about some of the numbers you presented. Help us understand how tremendous the investment has been and how much you all have been able to, what you've been able to achieve in specifically the hydrocarbon sector in Colombia in the last few years.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy, and I'm very pleased to be here in La Jolla, in a wonderful place and a wonderful conference. Yes, I mean, as you said, Colombia is really experiencing a boom in the oil and gas sector. All the indicators show that we have increased our activity, our exploration activity. We have increased production. We reached by the end of last year a production of 1 million barrels per day. Foreign direct investment into the country is also booming. Into the oil and gas sector has increased over the last years. And last year we had $5.3 billion of foreign direct investment into the oil and gas sector. We completed our bid round, what we call the Ronda Colombia 2012, where we ensure that we are going to have a significant exploration activity in the following year. So we are having really a good momentum, and of course the challenge is to keep it that way and really increase it.
Well, thank you so much. That's the perfect segue, because I think some people have argued Colombia is becoming a little bit of a victim of its own success. And I think what they mean by that is the amount of investment and the amount of opportunity that you talked about the Colombian round and some of the previous rounds has brought so much investment and activity, but there's infrastructure that hasn't quite kept up. And there's licensing processes that haven't quite kept up. So let's talk a little bit about first the licensing, and specifically the environmental licensing process. I think that's gotten to be a big issue that needs to be dealt with. And then also the infrastructure. Talk a little bit about those two elements.
Well, about those couple of things, I mean, we do have challenges going forward. One is infrastructure. I mean, definitely we are catching up. Our production levels grew much faster than our transportation capacity, so we are catching up. But I really have good news. I mean, we are going to complete phase one of Bicentenario, of Oleoducto Bicentenario, in the following couple of months. That will add up 120,000 barrels per day.
Where is that geographically?
That is in the Llanos Basin, the east part of Colombia, from the Casanare area to Arauca, to connect with the existing Caño Limón Coveñas pipeline.
Okay. So
that is one. There is another pipeline from Coveñas to Cartagena, the Oleoducto del Caribe, which is expected to increase our transportation capacity by 300,000 barrels. And there is a new project which is in the very early stages, which is the pipeline to the Pacific. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned in the conference, the vast majority of our transportation capacity goes to the Caribbean.
Right.
And we want to open up new markets to
You're
the
not
Pacific.
alone.
So actually this week there is going to be a meeting for the Pacific Alliance, yes,
correct,
with Chile, Mexico, Peru, and Colombia. So we want to build that pipeline. There are a few companies, a group of companies interested in this. It is in the early stages, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
But so we have in the near future, we have good projects to build up our infrastructure and transportation capacity. On the environmental permitting, we do have issues in terms of the time that the environmental authorities are taking to grant environmental permits. to the companies, due mainly to the increasing activity. So that they didn't have at some point in time the capacity to cope with all this increasing activity. I should say that we have made improvements over the last months. We are now taking less time than we took 3-4 months ago. We are not yet where we want to be.
Or where you were before, perhaps.
Yes, or where we were before. I mean, taking like 6-7 months to get a license. Now we are taking like a year. As I said, we are making improvements, and I think we are in the right direction. I mean, we want to be where we were before, and the environmental authorities, the energy authorities, the president himself, the presidential office, are taking the appropriate steps to get it faster.
Excellent. Let me ask you one final question that has to do with the peace process, and talk a little bit about that, because obviously for years people have focused on the security question. What does the peace process mean for the energy business?
Well, the first thing I should mention is that as the president has said, and the chief negotiator has said, energy is not part of the agenda in La Habana. Right. So the investor community shouldn't expect any changes in the oil and gas policy of the country as a result of this peace process. As most of Colombians are, I'm relatively optimistic, reasonably optimistic about the outcome of the peace process. I think Colombia reaching a peace agreement and working on peace conditions will have an amazing potential, really. I mean, this country with peaceful conditions will have a huge opportunity, a huge development in the future. So I'm reasonably optimistic about it.
Well, that's exactly, I was what the implications are for the energy sector. So that's fantastic. Dr. Cabrales, we're delighted to have you here. Thanks for coming to La Jolla.
Thank you very much.
Hope to see you again in Bogota or next year.
Sure.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you.